And John is joining. First of all, John, I could not be happier that you're part of the network. You know how much I respect you, and I have leaned on you through the years for information. So I love that you're starting with us at the podcast, and I want to start with this. I have said before, Darnold, Rosen are first-round quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, I would draft second, third round later. I would not draft Baker Mayfield. I can't get past the police video. Now, that may sound idiotic to some. Do you believe and are you hearing that there are a handful of teams like Johnny Manziel that just took him off the board?
Well, let me start off by saying thanks, Colin. I really appreciate this opportunity, and you know it goes both ways, and I'm excited to be partnered up and to be a part of what you've been doing forever. We differ on Baker Mayfield a little bit. I have a close personal friend at Oklahoma that just swears by him and swears by him in a way. Now, I don't necessarily mean that he's going to be a great NFL player, but just the person. And I think when you bring up the word Johnny Manziel, when you bring up that police video, clearly that's a red flag. I mean, anything in the NFL circles, you get red flagged for pretty easily. That was bad. But I think that most people around Baker feel that was kind of an out-of-character moment. That was a low point. Now, is he going to be, when you take a bunch of outliers, typically you're going to be wrong more than you're right. So he's an outlier just based on his size. 6-foot quarterbacks, you usually don't make it. There's been really two in the last 20 years, Drew Brees and Russell Wilson, that are successful. And you've talked about Russell Wilson a lot. As an athlete, him and Baker are not comparable. But I do think that Baker has some skills that are comparable to Drew Brees in the sense that rhythm, timing, and accuracy, and he can win from within the pocket. Now, I think his comp, like this, what we saw of Case Keenum this year, which was a really solid player. A franchise quarterback? No, but a really solid player. I think he can become that much earlier than Case did. Now, clearly Case was elevated into this unreal position with just a stacked team and a great head coach. But I do think Baker, I don't compare him to Johnny Manziel because Johnny was a train wreck off the field. But Baker is not by any means a train wreck off the field.
I said that there's one player in this draft, actually two, that I don't think, and I always feel there's a handful of players, there's no bust potential outside of an injury. Minkah Fitzpatrick.
High floors, we call them.
Oh, you call them what?
High floors in the scouting community.
Okay.
That means their floor is high. They can't bust.
Okay. Barkley, the running back from Penn State, to me, barring an injury, is a can't miss. And the safety for Alabama, Minkah Fitzpatrick, who came on to Alabama as a true freshman, played a vital role in the secondary. He can blitz. He's not a burner, but he's quick. He's aggressive. He's smart. He was better in big games. Is there a guy to you, if you had to pick one guy, maybe it's Darnold, maybe it's not, that you have as a can't-miss guy?
It would probably be the guard from Notre Dame, Quinn Nelson, just because that word can't miss when you're talking about safeties, when you're talking about running backs. We've seen it time and time. There's been a lot of can't misses that are misses, especially at safety. Minkah's unreal, but it's very scheme specific. So if you get a poor coach and he puts you in the wrong positions, you can make good players look bad. And with a running back, what if your offensive line stinks? What if your quarterback stinks and they have, 8 guys, 9 guys in the box every play? So you might be at a disadvantage. What if your offensive coordinator is not very good? With a guard, when I use the term can't miss, it's really, you're just blocking the guy in front of you for the most part, whether it's in a power scheme when you're out and moving or whether it's in a zone scheme when, which Quentin Nelson's not really a zone, you would call him scheme guard. We'll see at the combine. For him specifically, for a guard to go in the top 10, it takes a lot. How he moves in space. Colin, I live in the Bay Area. You watched Jimmy Garoppolo last year, and Brian Hoyer before that. He was running for his life because their interior offensive line was so bad. So I think we're talking about a guard going in the top 10, and I think it's justified.
All right, you spoke with the Eagles general manager, Howie Roseman, a very shrewd guy. There is some debate here on Nick Foles. Okay, do you let him go? He wants to be a pastor. He was almost out of the league. He's a good kid. He won you a Super Bowl. And there's other people that say, hey, the Eagles gave him an opportunity to be a star for 3 hours. What is Howie going to do with him?
Well, I just asked Howie what he thought about Nick Foles, and he used the word, I used the word like, he used the word love, and he reiterated it over and over, love. I've also, though, been around Howie Roseman. And, you talk a lot about the Daryl Moreys of the world, the Billy Beans of the world. He's got a lot of that in him. So there is a value component if someone were to offer a first-round pick, it's going to be bye-bye Nick Foles. But if the pick is like, a third-rounder that can be a conditional second, I think it'll make them think, just because their quarterback has a torn ACL. And is Nick Foles as good as what we witnessed? No. But he's clearly the best backup in the league by a country mile now that Jimmy Garoppolo is out of New England. And he means a lot to them, again, because their starting quarterback has a torn knee at this current moment. And who knows? What's the rush to get Carson back if you have Nick Foles, who doesn't make that much money? The great thing, Carson doesn't make that much money. If I'm a betting man right now, I don't know if Carson will be ready by week 1 or not, but I think Nick Foles is on the Eagles roster at the end of training camp.
And finally, John Middlekauff. He's at the Combine in Indianapolis. He's part of the Herd Podcast Network, a former NFL scout. When you look at this Combine, I had Steve Keim on earlier. When you came to this as a couple bald guys, he came on. I said, would you ever drastically change your mind by seeing somebody at the Combine? Go back to your career. Was your mind blown away, altered by a kid you saw, Vernon Davis at Maryland? Or what is the Combine's purpose?
Well, I think it weeds more guys out than it does make guys like Vernon Davis, because you already knew that Vernon Davis or anyone that runs fast, you have a pretty good idea when you're going through the school in the fall, talking to the coaches, talking to the strength coach, their testing numbers. To me, it's more sometimes those schools inflate it. I vividly remember, this wasn't necessarily at the Combine, but at the Pro Day, I remember watching Matt Barkley run a 40. And obviously Matt's senior year, and you know him well, follow that program,
USC,
did not go well.
Yeah.
But I just remember him run the 40 and thinking, there's no way. When you work in an office, which I did for multiple years, you're around these NFL players every day, you see them in practice, I go, that is not going to play. Now, he ended up playing a lot longer than I thought he would play, just as a functional player, but you just knew right away that's not going to cut it. And not that the 40 time is a make or break. Tom Brady's shown that. But he didn't have the arm strength. And I think sometimes you see with quarterbacks, and, Sam Darnold's not throwing. That's somewhat of a knock on him. I like Sam Darnold. I know, as do you. But the arm is not going to look great. This wouldn't have been the ideal setting for him, where Josh Rosen is just going to be throwing 99-mile-an-hour fastballs. So it's going to be interesting watching Sam Darnold, who's clearly a much better athlete than Matt Barkley. But his arm is not going to look great just on air.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.